What is good, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Rory Gissing, and this video we're going to be talking about how to shrink your waist. So I thought I'd make this video because one of the subscribers for the channel, Ninos, sent me an email saying this. Hello Rory, my name is Ninos. I am from Canada. I've recently subscribed to your channel. Thank you, Ninos. And I am following you for your activity and guidance on YouTube. Thank you for the excellent content, and I am definitely a fan. Dude, thank you so much. That means a hell of a lot to me. My question is regarding what other tips and tricks and possibly exercises to avoid that would allow me to maintain a thin waist as possible. I understand at one point you were measuring 29 inches and that you did some squats and deadlifts which grew the musculature. However, your proportions are perfect, and even that small amount of growth did not alter the overall V-taper physique. I am currently at 30.5 inches for the waist measurements. Sorry, at the umbilicus. I would like to keep it this way. Thanks again for all the excellent work. Again, like I said, thank you so much for that email. That meant so much to me. So here we go with how to shrink your waist or keep a small waist. So I believe this is a video he was referencing for my original How to Shrink Your Waist, which was over 2 years ago. But the information as well, I think I'll update and add to, just because things change, your opinions change over years of doing this, and I thought, let's get this new video done. I'd like to point out the information I'll be giving out in this video is not going to be from some randomized, double-blinded placebo study. The information I'm providing has been passed down into the bodybuilding community from the top bodybuilders and bodybuilding coaches that is now pretty much accepted in the bodybuilding community as legitimate methods. Methods that can be applied to the majority of athletes with a successful outcome. Majority is the key word there, as there are, of course, some outliers. Not to mention, bodybuilders are somewhat outliers already. So now we're talking about the outliers within the outliers. So these are the methods I'll be going into in more detail. We're going to discuss the visceral fat versus subcutaneous fat, performing vacuums, huge meals versus eating often, and therefore the effects of being constantly bloated. The exercise selection. We'll also be discussing waist trainers and if they actually work. And the last point we're going to discuss is your lifting age. And that's all the preparation I've done for this video. So now I'm just going to wing all of the discussion points one by one. So visceral fat versus subcutaneous fat. Visceral fat is the fat that you find around the organs. It's normally a little bit deeper within the body, whereas your subcutaneous fats, as it says, it is under the skin. So the visible fat that you'll see, it's the fat that you have to get rid of to have your abs visible. That is the subcutaneous fat. Now, you can't really target either visceral fat or subcutaneous fat. When you just burn fat, you burn fat. It goes to say the same thing where you can't spot reduce fatty areas either. So just doing 100 sit-ups every day isn't going to start burning belly fat. That's not how it works. However, when you have low levels of subcutaneous fat, generally people think that that is all the fat they have to lose. However, the visceral fat being in your abdomen area, if you keep going and hit another level of being absolutely peeled, you probably could shrink your waist probably ½ inch or another inch even further, because you're starting to tuck into that visceral fat. Now, getting rid of your visceral fat isn't actually the healthiest thing to do. It is there for organ support, heat production. It's there for a reason. It is there for your actual bodily functions. Your subcutaneous fat is the fat which is a bit more towards your energy storage system. So getting so lean you can see your abs is one thing, but then getting completely shredded, you'll be starting to tuck into that visceral fat, and that's when you're going to start seeing your abdomen start to shrink. But guys, please make sure you know what you're doing, because you're probably going to start eating away a load of muscle mass if you're trying to get that level of lean and you don't know what you're doing. Performing vacuums. So if you watch this channel, I'm fairly confident you're going to know who C-Bum is, or Chris Bumstead, and his signature vacuum pose. Now, performing vacuums does pull your waist in for that period of time you're actually holding the vacuum. However, what you're also doing is training your transverse abdominis. It's the muscle that you have to flex to actually perform the vacuum. So performing vacuums and training the transverse abdominis is going to give you the ability to pull your waist in so it will visibly look smaller. And that is something almost all competitive bodybuilders do. If they don't, they really should, because it will pull their waist in tight on the stage and it gives them a much more effective V-taper. Now, there's so many ways to do vacuum training. I just personally like doing 10 rounds of 10-second holds with a 10-second rest. So you're basically holding it for 100 seconds total. Do that every single day, if not twice a day. You can literally do it on the couch, brushing your teeth, in the car, you can do it anywhere, so there really is no excuse to not do it. Now, eating huge meals versus eating often. I'm not saying little and often, because if you're a bodybuilder, it's never a little meal. These are big portions, you know, this is 150 grams of rice. It's just eating more often versus, say, your 3 meals a day with bigger portions versus your 6 meals a day with smaller portions. You hear a lot of the classic physique athletes talk about this. To try and keep their stomach as small as possible, they actually break up their meals into smaller meals, but saying that majority of bodybuilders already eat 5 to 6 meals every day. But if you're not taking it that seriously and you're eating 3 meals a day, then maybe consider breaking those meals up, especially in the bulking season, into smaller meals. Now I'm going to circle back to talk about being constantly bloated, as I mentioned earlier. Now that in itself is going to have the same effect. If you're eating foods that is keeping you bloated all the time, is probably not going to do you any favors. Having a constantly blown out stomach is not going to be working towards making it smaller. You're probably going to do the opposite thing. So finding the correct foods that are not going to bloat you is also very important. Let's talk about exercise selection. As you heard in the email earlier in the video, I mentioned that deadlifts and squats contributed to thickening my waist. That will not happen to everyone. However, it did just happen to me. My obliques got considerably thicker the heavier I was squatting and deadlifting. That's just the genetics I have. So I'm not saying you have to cut out those exercises, but if you find those exercises are actually thickening your waist as well, you are growing your obliques for the support of the exercises, that's when you should probably consider finding an alternative. Not to mention the benefits of squats and deadlifts for putting muscle mass on your frame, on your physique. That can outweigh how much it's going to affect your waistline. So if you're adding, let's say, a couple inches to your legs and only half an inch got added to your waist, then your V-taper, your X-frame is going to look significantly better, so that's actually worth it. Now the same goes for getting your shoulders and your back thicker. If you can widen your lats and your shoulders, that can offset some slight waist thickening as well. Now this video is talking about how to shrink your waist, but of course this section is talking about how to maintain a smaller waist. Now saying that, there is no blanket rule to any exercise that you should avoid in trying to maintain a small waist, because like I said earlier, everyone responds differently to different exercises. However, for the sake of this video, I will say avoid heavy training on your obliques. Doing crazy heavy oblique work is only going to grow them, and growing your obliques means you're going to get a bigger waist. Moving on to waist trainers, do they or don't they work? Now this again is quite a hard subject to talk about because some people swear by them, but I don't think they're actually talking about waist trainers, they are talking about corsets. Corsets do work, and if you have a waist trainer that you wear for the majority of the day, I'm talking 20 hours a day, then that's not quite the traditional waist trainer, that is kind of corset training, and yes, that can work by moving your internal organs around. So it's a bit of a tough subject because you don't really want to be doing that as a bodybuilder. You're going to lose all of your core stability by doing that, I would have thought anyway. But is simply wearing a waist trainer to go to the gym for a couple hours, then take it off and go home, is that going to work? Not really, but it can have benefits. So sometimes it can help you train your transverse abdominis, but again, just doing vacuums can do that. But another way it can actually benefit is, in theory, it can improve your blood flow to your abdomen area. And an improved blood flow does give you an advantage when it comes to burning subcutaneous fat. So it's possible it helps in that way, but it certainly doesn't pull your waist in and keep it tight unless it's a manner of corset training. Now on to the last discussion point, your lifting age. What does that even mean? It's simply how many years you've been lifting for. For the majority of people, there is going to be some sort of waist thickening over the years of training that's just going to occur naturally. Why does this happen? Well, maybe it's because your calories have to keep increasing because you have more muscle mass every year, so you have to increase, your food intake to get even bigger for the next year. So it could just be the expansion of your internal organs. It could also be the fact that you're going to be lifting heavier or just been lifting for so long that the eventuality of thickening your obliques is just going to occur. But generally, your waist will ever so slightly naturally thicken over every year you are training, like intense training, hard training for bodybuilding purposes. I mean, at the end of the day, the goal for bodybuilding is to add muscle, and you'll just be adding a little bit of muscle to your lower back, a little bit to your obliques. even potentially your abs will all just start to grow slightly, and a decade later, you may have grown half an inch or an inch on your waist. Now, of course, that is assuming you are measuring the same levels of body fats at both times of measuring, but that is sometimes the reality of it. Now, of course, I've mentioned a load of stuff in this video which will help prevent the thickening process as much as possible, but generally, if you are lifting for decades, it's an eventuality that is just going to happen for the majority of us. But you should be able to dictate whether that's going to be 2 inches or a half an inch. You know, half an inch you're probably not even going to realize, you won't notice. 2 inches you might start noticing. For me personally, my all-time smallest waist was 29 inches, and that was the year before I turned pro. So we are talking 2018. And now when I get on stage, I'm around 30 and a half to 31 inches, as lean as possible. I don't feel it's that noticeable, but if it is, I mean, by all means, let me know in the comments if I'm just talking shit. But I do feel my V-taper is better than ever, even though my waist is now the thickest it has been when I'm at low body fat. Guys, if you watched the full video, please go ahead and like the video. It goes so far for the algorithm for me. If you have any questions about the video, please leave it in the comment section. And if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and drop a subscribe. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.